All right, George, this compensation calculator that you can now see on the screen, and that check is going to be your check. It's going to be a monthly check. But George, as you know, this compensation calculator is set up to work just like any calculator that would sit on your desk. You can punch numbers into it, and it's going to give you true and accurate numbers. What I'd like to do in explaining how our system works, and what I promised you I would do, is show you how much money you can make specifically, and how we form a team that will produce that large income that will also turn into a residual income. When I finish with that part of it, I'll go through three little proofs with you. Number one, that in fact we do this at the service of others. Number two, that it's not just a residual income, but a lifetime residual income. And number three, there's a way when you are making so much money here that we can't get you to do any more work to make that check continue to grow. And that's my favorite thing to show you. We'll do that right at the end when we get the final screen. There's only 4 steps to this, but what I'd like to do is give you what we call a worst case scenario. A scenario that probably is so bad wouldn't happen for you, so that you can evaluate this without any exaggeration. So let's get started. First of all, in the upper left, you'll see a slot where you can type your name. I want you to type your name in there exactly as you'd have it on a check that you're going to cash or deposit at the bank. And tell me when your name shows up on the check. Okay, great. Now here's what we'll do. In any word problem like this, there's always a couple of givens, because I want to take what would be true or accurate in this calculation, and I want to help you see it as real. And we do that by building the scenario that would actually create this team. So here's what we know. A couple of givens. Number one, if you're an adult and you live in the United States, you know about 1,000 people, give or take a few. Now, that number was so big for me, the first thing I did is cut that number in half. So I said, what if I only knew 500 people? What would this look like? So let's pretend for a moment that you were like me, and you can only come up with an acquaintance of a circle of influence of 500 people. Great. Now here's what we'll do. You're not going to do this by yourself. The person that brought you into this business, your sponsor, and I are going to help you get started. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to communicate with all of those 500 people. And we're going to communicate some kind of value to them so they can evaluate this. We're going to try to attract them to take a look. Many of them will go even through this process where they see this compensation calculator and hear this story. But I'm going to give you a real poor production ratio. In other words, a success ratio that's less than anything I've ever seen, even when I first got started and wasn't very good at this. So let's say, for instance, for every 100 people we share this idea with, and I'm involved in helping, that 99 out of 100 say no thank you, for whatever the reason. Not for them, not the right time, whatever. But 99 out of 100 say no thanks. And only 1 in 100 joins the team because they're attracted to having this same benefit, this same lifestyle, this same financial freedom. And they're going to do exactly what you and I are doing here. Let's get started. We get through the 500. 99 out of 100 say no thank you. 1 in 100 says yes. In the first box right under your name, if you'll drop that menu, you'll see a series of numbers. Do you see that? Okay, great. It says 0 to 10. This box represents the number of people that you will personally attract and sponsor with our help. If we do 1 out of 100, and there's 500 total, that would mean 5. So put a 5 in that box, and then tell me what happens to your check. 113, that's correct. That's $113 a month, which is your monthly pay for doing this poor 1% performance, which I will take responsibility for. Let's say I'm having an off period in my business, and this is the best I can do with your group. But here's what we're going to do now. You're finished. These are all the people we're going to have you attract for this. I'm going to hold you to this 1% for the entire example. But here's what you're going to do now. You're going to dedicate yourself, with our support, to these 5. These are the 5 that joined you first. And now you're going to help them go through their group. Now let's say they're the same as you in this respect, that they don't know 1,000 each, but they only know 500 each. Now we're going to go to their group and present the same opportunity and value to their people that we did with your people. Let's say, though, that you're the best in your whole group. Let's say the 1% you did can't be matched by them. So they're going to do something less than 1%. If we go to the second box on the same line out to the right, and we drop that menu, I believe you'll see another 0 to 10. Do you see that? Terrific. Now this box represents the number of people that they're going to attract and sponsor with your help and my help. Since they can't do 1%, they're going to do something less. You did 5, and that was 1%, so they're only going to allow them to have 4 in that box. So put 4 in there, so they're each going to find 4. Now what happens to the check? 713, that's correct. $713 a month is your monthly pay for you doing 1% and them now doing less than 1%. Now I'm going to be honest with you, George, I didn't get in the business for $713 a month, but let me show you how attractive that little number can be. Remember when we talked earlier in the overview, and I told you that your business expenses the first year would not exceed $200 a month average. If we were to subtract even the $200 from that $713, you'd have a net profit each month of over $500, which means in a year, that's over $6,000. Now, George, I didn't get in for $713, but I'm telling you, an extra $500+ a month would change most people's lives. And if all I had to trade for it each month is a $200 business expense to get that $713, nobody I've met yet would ever walk away from that. So that's solid enough to keep a person in this and get them to believe for a little more. Now let's go to step 3. I'm going to show you why I did get in the business. At step 3, we go to the next box on the second line. It's the third box there. Drop that menu and tell me what you see. That's right, 0 to 4. This box represents the number of times that this compensation calculator will allow us to duplicate not what you did at 1%, but what your group did at less than 1%. Now we could go 4, but let's just do it 3 more times. 3 more times at less than 1% and see where we can go. Put the 3 in and tell me what the check says. That's right, $10,793. That's per month. That's your monthly pay at $10,000 plus per month now for you doing 1% and all the rest of your group still doing less than 1%, down to 3 more levels. That's right, $10,793 a month. Now let me tell you why that number is significant. You remember I told you when I was explaining my story that that was my first goal, $10,000 a month. I gave myself 5 years to get there, but then working the proven system, I reached that goal early and I exceeded that goal in 14 months. The reason that number is significant is because when people get close to $10,000 a month or cross that line, working in a part-time home-based private franchise, now their daytime job, their day job, their full-time job doesn't look so attractive anymore. And many of them, in fact 99 out of 100 by the time they reach $10,000 a month doing this, will have quit that job. They're not going to go through that commute. They're not going to report to a boss. They're not going to follow anybody else's orders when they can make this kind of money in a part-time home-based business. And that's exactly what happened to me. But another thing happens that's kind of unique. Not only do they quit their job, even if they don't need a new car, they'll go buy one. And they'll usually pay cash for it. Now let me tell you why those two, among a number of things that they do, are significant. You see, remember when I talked to you, George, about your original group, and 99 out of 100 said no thank you. Well, that means there's a lot of people that didn't join your business. Well, when the word gets out that you quit your job, and it will because these are people you're familiar with, and that you bought a new car, and the discussion will sound something like this. Hey, did you hear George quit his job? No, I didn't, but I saw him driving a new car the other day. See, this makes no logical sense to the human mind. And so the gossip ring will start, and eventually the questions will come back to you, and it'll sound like this. Hey, George, what's up? I heard you quit your job, and then somebody else told me you're driving a new car. Did you win a lottery? Did you win a sweepstakes? Or did you get a family inheritance? What's up? How can you do that? And here's going to be your answer, George, and you're going to enjoy this part. The answer sounds something like this. Well, you remember that little home-based private franchise business I showed you about 18 months ago? Well, that worked out better than I thought. And I was able to quit my job, and I'm driving the new car, and by the way, I paid cash for it. But I'm not finished yet. I'm still going to build a little more. So here's my question for you. Who do you know that deserves a chance to see this so they can evaluate it for themselves? I'd like a chance to share it with a few more people. One more step, George, and then we're finished. Go back to box number 3 and drop the menu one more time. Let me show you what we call exponential growth, what we call geometric progression in shared marketing. We're going to build just one more level, and we'll do it again at the less than 1% performance. So we're going to go back to that box, drop the menu, and change the 3 to a 4. And then tell me what happens to your check. Yeah, that's right. $41,513 a month, George. This is your monthly pay. That's just under $500,000 a year, and we've held this thing to the less than 1% performance all the way down to that level. And you'll never have to work again the rest of your life. And all you had to do is demonstrate this little process. That's all 3 of the things that I wanted to show you. If you look down at the website now, there's a menu at the bottom. We can go right to that page where you can join the team today.